these affecting the native species?
Lower numbers of the things that eat plankton, things like bigmouth buffalo and gizzard shad. So we've seen those numbers sag.
And what about the other species that aren't directly competing with these?
We've seen lower populations of bass and other sport fish.
Does anything feed on these?
They quickly overgrow the mouth size of most of the predators here in the river. Even the largest catfish would have a hard time with this fish.
In the nightmare scenario, the aliens spread far enough up the Mississippi system to infiltrate the Great Lakes, where a multi-billion-dollar fishing industry is at stake.
We don't want to take a chance. So we have 3 electric barriers run by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We have physical fences and several locks and dams between here and the Great Lakes. And all those things are slowing down the spread. We're doing just about everything we can to stop these fish.
The dead carp don't go to waste. In Illinois alone, around 3,000 tons of problem fish have already been turned into high-grade farm fertilizer. And according to Kevin, his men are just about managing to hold the line.
We need to win the war here.
But stopping the carp is an extremely costly business. And elsewhere, physical barriers appear to be having little effect. Above St. Louis, 29 dams turn the upper Mississippi into a giant staircase. To find out if the carp have reached the top, I'm heading north. You might think a big dam would stop the carp in their tracks, but each time a ship travels upstream past one of these barriers, it does so via a lock, which fills with river water. In theory, it only takes 1 or 2 carp to slip into a lock along with a ship, and hey presto, the aliens can start to overrun the next stretch of river.
Today's a very special day for me. I'm going fishing for the smallest thing that I've ever been after. And I actually hope that I don't get it.
Am tot spus de atâtea ori, adică de multe ori, că fitofagul este un pește care trebuie distrus. La noi, că trebuie eliberat, că trebuie nu știu ce, uitați ce se întâmplă în marile fluvii. Asta se va întâmpla și cu Dunărea în câțiva ani de zile și alte râuri.
I'm not fishing for whole fish, I'm fishing for DNA, which will be packaged up in fish cells floating around in the water. Because fish, like us, they tend to lose cells just during the course of everyday life. There's a filter in that nozzle that will catch individual cells.
This is the world's first portable device that can detect and quantify DNA in river water. A positive result would be the worst possible news.
Just have a quick peek at what we've caught here. Right, that's the gunk that we've filtered from the river water. Normally, this will be sent off to a lab, and if you're lucky, you get the results back in a week. What's special about this setup is that I can actually analyse this straight away.
While I wait for my samples to process, I hook up with state biologist Nick Frohnauer.
How important is it to the health of the river that you keep out the Asian carp?
It's very important. They have the potential to really affect the whole aquatic community. When you have this big fish that comes in that can eat almost its weight in food a day, that's really taxing on the system as a whole. Secondly, they jump out of the water, so you have the human safety factor. They can cause serious injury.
Nick tells me that if Asian carp overrun this stretch of the Mississippi, they'd also do serious harm to an angling industry worth billions of dollars. I've barely registered this economic threat when my DNA results are in.
Perfect. The samples that you took today are negative. Flatline.
That's good. It's very good. So flatlining is good in this case.
Trebuie distrus, cum am spus, se hrănește cu fitoplanctonul care este în mâncarea de bază ale vinilor, a peștilor mărunți care de-abia iasă din icre și nu au ce mânca, pentru că ăștia le consumă hrană.
Just downstream from here, and yet for some reason the aliens have failed to reach the water above.
Dați câte baraje și cât fac ăștia ca să nu meargă mai departe.
Perception that they are just this marauding army.
Uite.
Wherever they get a toehold, they just explode. But it turns out that there are places where they are present, but they haven't exploded. Why is that?
60 miles downstream, near the Iowa border, the Mississippi widens to nearly 2 miles across. Superficially, this stretch of water is no different from the carp-infested river I saw in Illinois. And yet for 15 years it has defied alien takeover. Hoping to discover its secret, I'm going fishing with a man who grew up in this neck of the woods. John Hoxmeyer is a scientist with a special interest in tracking some of the Mississippi's rarest fish.
Grew up fishing in Minnesota my whole life. It's so neat to be working on the Mississippi River.
That's a big area of water, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Și în Europa, în multe țări occidentale, ești amendat dacă eliberezi
Bottom of the lake.
fitofagul. Bine, e crab chinezesc, așa și este de altfel.
2 days. And so you don't know where in this circle they're going to be.
While John and I head out to his nearest net, a second team has gone to check 2 other fishing sites.
Is that it over there?
Yes, that's it. Let's see what we got. It's 24 foot deep. It's a 6-inch mesh, so you don't get a lot of fish, but what you do get is memorable.
Many native fish are plankton feeders, just like the alien carp, which first showed up here in 2003.
So are the Asian carp having any impacts here?
We don't see a lot of Asian carp up here. They would have an impact, but we just don't see the numbers here.
But the Asian carp are definitely here, but
They're here.
They haven't exploded.
They haven't exploded like they have further down south. Given the good habitat that we have up here, there's a lot of resistance built into the system. And so there's just not a lot of room for an invasive fish.
So are you saying that the Asian carp need a vulnerability, a gap that they can exploit?
Exactly.
If John is right, the carp are much more likely to take over where the river is already in bad shape.
Oh, there's definitely something here. There's something here.
Feel something?
Yeah, I felt pull.
Can you see it yet? Just feel it?
There it is.
Oh yeah, that's a nice
Yeah.
one.
It's a hefty fish,
You can get its tail.
but not what I was expecting.
Here we go.
Da, bun, dragii mei, asta am vrut să vă arăt. Căutați documentare și documentați-vă să vedeți cât este de distrugător fitofagul. Acum vă iau vățuc
Lake sturgeon can
și
grow
vă
to
spun din tot sufletul, aveți grijă de voi, mâncați mâncare sănătoasă, beți apă
but these fish take more than
și
10
fiți
years to reach
mai indulgenți unii cu ceilalți.
slow to reproduce.
Vățuc de numai să trăiți.